First book I want to talk about today is S by J.J. Abrams and Doug Dorst. And let me tell you, I have been dying to talk about this motorcycle sound that's now coming out my mouth. Hi there. I'm Michelle with the Goffstown Public Library, where I'm an adult services librarian. My job is to bring the information you want or need to you when you want or need it. And even though I'm not physically in the library today, I hope I can do just that, which is why I'm coming to you for the 4th episode of Book Talk with Michelle. I'll be sharing my reading wrap-up for the month of April in this episode. Overall, great month in books. No real stinkers, and a few that were a cut above the rest. To start this book talk, I want to speak about S by J.J. Abrams and Doug Dorst. I have to tell you, I've been dying to talk about this book with someone. It is such a unique reading experience. You have S in your hands. Then you take the book out of the box. Then the book you're holding, it's called Ship of Theseus by V.M. Straka. But keep in mind that everything inside that box was indeed written by Doug Dorst. Okay, so Ship of Theseus by V.M. Straka. When you open that up, you'll see copious amounts of notes in 2 handwritings from people that we learn are called Jen and Eric. And then on top of those notes, we've got lots of inserts like ciphers and maps on napkins and postcards. It's crazy. So taken all together, those things, those inserts, the notes, the book, serve to tell the stories within stories that is S. Are you still with me? It's pretty confusing. I have never read anything like it. The closest thing I can compare it to is The Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them textbook from the Harry Potter universe. And I say that because it's another book attributed to a fictional author that has its story told mostly through marginalia, the notes in the margins. But that comparison doesn't even scratch the surface of the complexity that is S. I mean, you have the printed novel, Ship of Theseus. That is a 500-page book all by itself. Then you've got the mystery of V.M. Straka's identity tucked in between the pages and with hidden clues in the text itself. Plus, then you have Jen and Eric trying to solve that mystery and their personal relationship deepening in the notes of the margins. I know I'm not explaining this right because this book defies explanation. The completely original conceit of the work pulled me in, even though you can probably tell it was really complicated to keep everything straight. In many cases, the mystery leapt off the written page and entered the real world. S is more than a book. It's an adventure. And if you're looking for a mind-bending mystery to spend hours thinking about, this is your book. I could spend a whole video talking about how much I love S. And if you're interested in that full review, maybe leave a comment and one day perhaps I'll make that video. But as for now, I have to wrap up my fangirling and get on with this video because I've already talked about S for far too long. It should come as no surprise that I'm giving this book 5 out of 5 stars. It was original, engrossing, out of this world. It was amazing. There's an audiobook version on Hoopla, even though I'm not sure how that'll work given the complexity I just described. I wasn't able to find any other digital copies with library resources, but I did see there's an iBook version if you're an Apple user. That being said, the best way to read this book is probably to hold the physical copy in your hands. Okay, I think it's time to talk about some other books. This has been a month of me reading books on my bookshelf that I've been neglecting for far too long. When I was given this next book as a present, I just let it languish on my bookshelf, which is a crying shame because Aphrodite Made Me Do It by Trista was a book that was made for me. I did talk about this book in my book talk on poetry, but I wanted to bring it up again to mention how much I adore it. The book is a collection of poetry and art that centers around the plot of a poet's conversation with Aphrodite. Over the course of the book, through a feminist retelling of mythology, Aphrodite implores the poet to embrace her own power and believe in the possibility of healing after trauma. The amazing poems could stand alone outside of the plot, and the art is witty and uplifting. I couldn't get enough of it. To the amazing bookseller who gave this to me, you were spot on with your recommendation. Thank you so much. And that's the great thing about local booksellers. They really get to know you. Don't get me wrong, I'm 100% an advocate for the library. You should go there first. But when you really gotta own a book, shop local. Aphrodite is another 5 out of 5 for me. Read this book if you need courage and strength. It's available on Hoopla as an ebook. After Aphrodite, I read The Gifts of Imperfection by Dr. Brené Brown. In fact, I've read most of Brown's work and I always find it inspiring and empowering. Although technically self-help, The Gifts of Imperfection, I would consider it more as a meditation on the things that get in our way when we try to live an authentic life. Everyone wants the quick and dirty how-to for happiness. Trust me, I've read those books, dozens of them. I've read them, I've returned them to the library, and then promptly forgot about them. The difference with The Gifts of Imperfection is it's not a how-to book. It's what's at stake, what gets in our way, and why we should fight like hell anyway book for happiness. This is the book to read if you want to start dismantling the obstacles in your path to living a good life. In fact, you should read all of Brown's work if you're into self-help or if you've decided it's time to start changing your life for the better. For this title, I give it a 4 out of 5 stars. I don't think it's Brené Brown's strongest work. That would be Breaking the Wilderness. But The Gifts of Imperfection is succinct, and I always leave it with something new to think about. You can find all of Brené Brown's work available on Overdrive and Cloud Library. The next 3 books I have were all featured as part of my library haul on episode 1. So if you're interested in seeing why I originally picked up these books, go ahead and check that video out. Normally, I'll check a whole big stack worth of books out of the library and never read them. So it actually feels pretty good to read what I said I was going to read. One of those books was How to Do Nothing by Jenny Odell, advice that was suddenly very urgent in April 2020. This was by far the most academic book that I had. It was a lot of theory and needed some good brain power to understand. Overall, the book is making suggestions about engaging in apparently purposeless activities like art, music, play, and stillness in an attempt to break the link between productivity and self-worth that many of us, including myself, have ingrained. At a time called The Great Pause, this is as close to an instruction manual as I have found. Although it's far from a how-to book, despite the title, it's not checklists, it's not objectives. It definitely just opened up the space for me to ask questions that'll allow myself to meaningfully align my actions and values. Overall, 4 out of 5 stars. One of the things I loved about this book was I put so many of the works it referenced on my to-read list. So I know I'm going to be thinking about the concepts for a while in the future. You can check this book out on Overdrive and Hoopla as an audiobook. After the academically rigorous tone of How to Do Nothing, I was looking for something a bit more fun. And I definitely found that in Upright Woman Wanted by Sarah Gailey. This book was so feisty. If you watched my library haul video, you know that I was really excited to read this book. I was not disappointed in the least. So this is a book that is a Western set in a dystopic future where censorship reigns. Within that world, there are these queer, feisty, gunslinging librarians that are trying to do the right thing. This is a book that made me wish for the literary equivalent of sandbox mode in video games, where after you play the main story, you get to roam around and do whatever you want. Yeah, I wanted that for this book. So in other words, I loved it. The fast-paced writing and the imaginative metaphors are complementary to the believable motivations and the tender relationships between characters. I highly, highly recommend this book if you're a fan of Fahrenheit 451, social justice, or of librarians, because we're awesome. You can find this book on Hoopla as an audiobook, and I don't think you're going to regret it for a second. I know I didn't. And then the last book I read this month was Glass Town by Isabel Greenberg. It's a graphic novel that follows the Bronte children who imagine this fantasy world called Glass Town when they're children. The book aims to answer the question, what happens to fantasy worlds when the creators grow up and their lives change? I didn't think this was the most compelling book I'd ever read by Isabel Greenberg. The art and the story left something to be desired. I would wholeheartedly recommend The 100 Nights of Hero, also by Greenberg, if you're looking for a similar story, because they both have themes of finding power in the stories we tell ourselves. So at least there's that. It's a powerful moral that I can get behind, and it definitely captured this certain type of childhood nostalgia for those vast imaginary places. Overall, it was a little flat for me, so I'd say 3 out of 5. I'm probably not going to be thinking about this book too often, although it is responsible for finally putting the Brontes' work onto my to-be-read list, so hopefully I'll get to enjoy those in the future. 3 out of 5, not a great way to end my reading month, but luckily there's still 5 days left in April, so maybe I'll be able to sneak a couple more reads in there. Do you have any recommendations for me? What have you been reading this month? Definitely put those in the comments. I'm always looking for new things to read, and I know our audience could also appreciate those recommendations. Thank you so much for watching. Today we talked about the books that I read in April. I'm excited to hear from you what books you read in April. Don't forget to leave a comment, and like and share if you got something out of this video. Don't forget to subscribe for more great content like book talks for all ages, story times, how-tos, crafts, and more. I'll see you back here next Saturday for another episode of Book Talk with Michelle. In the meantime, connect with the Goffstown Public Library on social media for more book recommendations, or visit goffstownlibrary.com to see what's in the catalog yourself. Again, I'm Michelle from the Goffstown Public Library, and I'll check you out later. Bye!